Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're going beyond those headlines of Metalla Royalty and Streaming's third quarter 2024 performance. We've got all our research right here, ready to dig in.
Exactly. We'll be focusing on their financials and dissecting those key factors that are really fueling their growth. By the end, you'll walk away not just knowing what happened, but really understanding why it all matters.
Perfect. Let's kick things off with, the big picture. Metalla reached a pretty major milestone this quarter. They actually started receiving royalty payments.
From not just one, but two projects.
That's right. Tocantinzinho in Brazil and La Guitarra in Mexico.
Yeah, and you know what? That actually signifies a real turning point for Metalla. It shows they're transitioning from just building that portfolio to actually, seeing the returns on those investments.
That makes a lot of sense. So let's zoom in on Tocantinzinho. What's the story there? What kind of impact is it having on Metalla's, bottom line?
Well, Tocantinzinho, it's a gold mine, and it's expected to ramp up production significantly in the coming months. I mean, it's projected to be at full capacity in 2025. And here's the thing, it's on schedule and within budget.
Okay, so that's got to be a good sign for those investors. What about La Guitarra? That one sounds like it's already up and running, right?
Yes. La Guitarra just started shipping out silver and gold concentrates back in July. Actually, Sierra Madre, they're the project owner, they've already reported, get this, over $2.4 million in revenue. And that's just since mining began. It's definitely contributing to Metalla's revenue stream.
Wow, that's impressive. So we have these two projects actually generating revenue, and of course there are a bunch more in the pipeline. What does the overall financial picture look like for Metalla this quarter?
Well, their Q3 2024 report shows $1.6 million in revenue, but a net loss of $1.2 million. Now, they also reported an adjusted EBITDA of $0.9 million. Okay,
so let's unpack those numbers a little. I mean, a net loss might, raise some eyebrows. Is that pretty common for a company at Metalla's stage of growth?
Yeah, it's a great question. And the answer is yes. Metalla is still in a phase of heavy investment. They're acquiring new royalties, new streams, and those upfront costs. Well, they can definitely impact the short-term profitability. Think of it like planting a tree. You don't get fruit right away.
Makes sense. They're planting some pretty impressive trees, it seems. Yeah. One thing that really jumped out at me in their report was that operating cash margin, $2,472 per attributable gold equivalent ounce. That seems, pretty healthy.
Absolutely, that margin. It highlights the inherent leverage you get with the royalty and streaming model. As production ramps up at projects like Tocantinzinho, Metalla's profitability, it should keep climbing. And the best part, they don't have to shoulder all that operational burden, the risks that come with actual mining.
So essentially, they're getting a bigger slice of the pie as these projects mature. That's a pretty smart strategy.
It is, and they're not putting all their eggs in one basket either. Metalla holds a diverse portfolio of assets that helps them weather the ups and downs of, any one commodity market.
Diversified across, different mines, different geographies, different metals even?
Exactly.
That makes a lot of sense from a risk management perspective.
Exactly, and it positions them very well for long-term growth.
Okay, so we've got kind of lay of the land, right? They're generating revenue from two key projects, more on the horizon. Their financials show, they're investing heavily, but also demonstrating those strong operating margins. Now let's dive into some of the specific asset updates they provided.
Sounds good. We can explore what's happening at places like Wharf, Aranzazu, El Realito. See how these updates tie into Metalla's overall growth trajectory.
Perfect. Let's get to it.
So you're curious about these asset updates. Well, let's start with Wharf. Coeur Mining, the operator there, they're investing in exploration, trying to extend that mine life.
And what does that mean for Metalla?
Well, it's potentially really good news for them. A longer mine life. That means a longer stream of those royalty payments. It's win-win.
Makes sense. Okay, so what about Aranzazu?
At Aranzazu, Ore Minerals, they're reporting some pretty exciting exploration results, some promising copper and gold intercepts.
Interesting.
Yeah, and these findings, they could actually expand the resource, which again would benefit Metalla down the line.
So it sounds like exploration is playing a pretty key role in kind of boosting the value of these assets. Are there any other Any other updates worth highlighting?
Oh, absolutely. El Realito, it's expected to continue production through the end of 2024, just from residual leaching, though. And at La Encantada, First Majestic Silver, they tackled those water source issues they were having, and production's expected to bounce back to, those historical levels this quarter.
Okay, so it sounds like things are, moving in the right direction across the board. But Metalla's growth, I mean, it's not just about existing assets, right? They've got, it's pretty interesting projects in their pipeline, ones that are, expected to come online pretty soon.
You're talking about their upcoming catalysts. Those are the projects that are, getting close to production. And they'll add these fresh revenue streams to Metalla's portfolio. Two of the most anticipated ones, Amalgamated Kirkland and Endeavor.
Okay, yeah, let's talk about those. What's the timeline looking like for those projects, and what kind of impact could they have on Metalla's growth?
Well, Amalgamated Kirkland, that one's expected to start production late 2024. And Endeavor, that's slated for early 2025. Now, these aren't, just any projects.
What makes them so special?
Well, for Amalgamated Kirkland, Agnico Eagle Mines, they're the operator. They've been reporting some really impressive drill results, high-grade gold intercepts. And Endeavor Polymetals, the operator there, they released this very optimistic mine plan, projects some, significant cash flow over the project's lifetime.
So potentially big wins for Metalla if these projects, deliver on those promises. It sounds like they've got a pretty solid lineup.
They do, but there are two more projects I think are worth, putting on your radar. Copper World and Taka Taka.
Intriguing names. Tell me more.
Well, Copper World, that's a copper project in Arizona. It's owned by Hudbay Minerals. They're making some headway on the permitting front, and they expect to actually make a final investment decision in early 2026.
Okay, so not producing just yet, but potentially a significant asset down the line, right?
Yeah.
Especially, given the growing demand for copper, and things like renewable energy technologies.
Exactly. Now, Taka Taka, that one's in Argentina. It's this massive copper project. It's owned by First Quantum Minerals. They seem pretty optimistic about receiving that final environmental permit in 2024, which, that would clear the way for construction to begin in 2025.
Wow, so Metalla is strategically positioning themselves to capitalize on a potential copper boom. With their existing copper royalties and these projects in the pipeline, they're pretty well positioned for growth if copper prices, continue to rise.
Yeah, it's a smart play. But it's not just about copper. They've got this diverse range of projects in all these different stages of development.
Give me some examples.
Well, you've got Joaquin, that's a silver project in Argentina. They're undergoing this aggressive exploration program there. Then there's Central Gold, that's a gold project in Brazil. They're actually redesigning it right now, trying to improve its economics in that permitting process. And let's not forget 15 Mile Stream, that one's in Canada. And it's got this promising pre-feasibility study. It outlines a pretty robust project, with low operating costs.
It seems like every project we talk about has, some exciting angle to it. Really highlights the strength of Metalla's diversified approach.
It does, and it's important to remember, Metalla's success, it hinges on the performance of these projects. They, they don't have direct control over mining operations. They're really reliant on those operators to effectively develop and manage these assets.
Right, so it's kind of a partnership, right? Metalla providing the capital, and those operators, they bring, their expertise in mining. But this hands-off approach, it also means we'll reduce risk for Metalla.
Exactly, and by spreading their investments across, a whole range of projects, they're mitigating the risks associated with any single mine, underperforming.
So let's talk about the elephant in the room, or rather the question on, probably every investor's mind. What about the share price?
Yes, the million-dollar question. Well, we can't give financial advice or, make predictions about future stock performance.
Of course. But what are some of the factors that, could influence Metalla's share price going forward?
Well, commodity prices, they're a big one, especially for, gold, silver, copper. The prices of those metals, they're influenced by all these, all these macroeconomic factors, inflation, interest rates, global demand.
So if commodity prices increase, it's generally, good news for mining companies, and by extension, royalty and streaming companies like Metalla.
Precisely. And, the successful development and ramp up of production at Metalla's key assets, that's going to be crucial. Tocantinzinho reaching that full capacity and those upcoming catalysts like Endeavor, coming online, those could have a really positive impact on their revenue and potentially their share price.
Right, because more production, well, that generally means, more revenue from Metalla.
Exactly. Another factor to consider is just the overall, market sentiment toward the mining sector. If investors are, bullish on mining, it could lead to increased interest in companies like Metalla.
So it's kind of a combination of those internal factors, like operational success at their assets, and external factors like those commodity prices and investor sentiment. All those things kind of play a role in shaping Metalla's share price.
Exactly. It's a complex interplay of forces.
Well, you've certainly given us a lot to think about. It seems like Metalla is, pretty well positioned for growth, but it's important to remember there are always risks involved in any investment.
Absolutely, a wise reminder.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground. We explored their financials, their growth drivers, and they're pretty promising portfolio of assets. But there's one more piece of the puzzle we need to examine: their approach to ESG, environmental, social, and governance factors.
Ah, yes, ESG. It's become a key focus for investors these days, and for good reason.
Absolutely. So let's delve into Metalla's ESG initiatives and what they're doing to ensure those responsible and sustainable practices within their portfolio.
Not just about profits anymore. Investors are really starting to pay attention to a company's impact on the world. Yeah, you're absolutely right. ESG has become a major factor in investment decisions these days. It's about looking beyond just those financial statements. It's about evaluating a company's commitment to, sustainability, social responsibility, ethical governance, all of that.
So where does Metalla, where do they fit into all of this? Have they jumped on that ESG bandwagon?
They definitely have. Metalla, they acknowledge the importance of ESG, and they've integrated it into their investment strategy. They've actually publicly stated their commitment to responsible mining practices. You can see it in their corporate presentations on their website.
Okay, that's good to hear. But you know what they say, actions speak louder than words. What are some concrete examples of Metalla's ESG initiatives?
Well, one of the key things they're doing is actively engaging with those operators of the mines where they hold, royalties and streams. They're encouraging those operators to adopt sustainable practices, things like environmental protection measures, responsible land management, strong community engagement.
So it's about kind of working collaboratively with those partners to raise the bar for the entire industry.
Precisely. Metalla, they recognize that their long-term success, it's really intertwined with the well-being of the communities and, the environments where these mining projects, where they operate.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Are there any specific examples of Metalla's ESG efforts that really stand out?
Well, while their public disclosures don't give super detailed case studies, they do emphasize their commitment to partnering with operators who share their values. They highlight their investments in projects that prioritize things like water stewardship, biodiversity conservation, community development.
It's encouraging to see them kind of aligning those financial interests with their commitment to responsible practices. Seems like Metalla is taking a pretty proactive approach to ESG, which, that's got to be a positive signal for investors who are really factoring these considerations into their decision making these days.
Absolutely. And as that focus on ESG continues to intensify, it'll be interesting to see how Metalla kind of evolves their approach and provides even more transparency around their ESG performance.
Yeah, definitely something to keep an eye on. Well, we've covered a ton of ground today. We explored Metalla's financial performance. We delved into those growth drivers, and we examined their impressive portfolio of assets. And of course, we wrapped it all up by discussing their commitment to ESG. It's been a pretty comprehensive deep dive.
It has, and I think it paints a picture of a company that's really strategically positioned for growth, while also acknowledging the importance of those responsible business practices.
For sure. We always encourage our listeners to do their own research, their own due diligence. There's a wealth of information out there on Metalla and the mining industry as a whole.
Knowledge is power. especially when it comes to, making those informed investment decisions.
Couldn't agree more. And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive. We hope you found it insightful and informative. Until next time, happy investing.